Okay, I think we may start. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us in today's webinar. My name is Laura Andradas. I'm marketing lead at Pryme Global. And together with Aske Host, product manager at Pryme Global, we would like to show you some of our new features for both advanced projects and the Pryme apps before taking a deep dive into work types. Since we would like to keep it as short as possible, let's begin. So let's see what's new in advanced projects. Here we see enhancements at the project level, since the completion date has been made available. Then there's a new page so that you can handle multiple projects in bulk. And there's also the option of converting permission sets from XML to AL code. Before upgrading, we highly recommend that you test this in a sandbox. Let's move to Pryme Matters, our matter management application for law firms and accounting firms. We have created a new page so that you can review a set of matters in bulk before finalizing their status. Then we have included a new field for excess fee lines. And we have also included the total line and the resource hours factbox. Let's move forward. Yes, to our application for tax retention, in this specific case for the CIS in the UK. We have made available the proof of tax submission. And now there's also the option of creating the CIS return statement, which displays the amounts withheld for subcontractors. And last but not least, our Pryme Intercompany, which is our collaboration solution. Here we find enhancements at the subscription card level, since it shows both general settings and the tables. And it also includes the price template as well as the invoice setup template. So that was it from my side. Now I will hand it over to Aske, with whom you will be able to see all these new features in action. And we'll see each other at the end of the webinar for the Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. And I will share again my screen here. So starting with advanced projects, what we were looking at was the completion date. I will not show that. That is just an additional column that you can select. But we do have the new project import list, and we have the permission sets. The project import list is mostly meant for migration when we start up a new company, but it could be used also for creating a larger number of new projects if there is an influx of projects where you say, well, here we have 20 new projects and we want to easily create those. And the way we do that is with a function, and most easily you search for import, and there is an import projects function now. Here you can put in the project number you want. And again, this is usually because we have migration from existing system where we know what the project numbers would be. We designate a sell to customer. We give the project a description. There's a project manager, maybe somebody responsible. The template to be used, if there's a project template, a task template as well, it could be an invoicing template and even a price template. And this is basically the same things you would put into the quick wizard when creating a project. It's just a way to do this for a large number of projects. So again, migrating a long list of projects, you can simply put them in here. And you can do that either via a configuration package, or you could do that with an import function which will prompt you for a sheet to import into the system. And then you simply put the create projects button at the end, and it will create these projects for you. And of course, it'll show any errors that will come. So if I create projects here, it will work. And then it says there is no sales price template called 8 here. Okay, so I'll have to correct that, either fix the data, remove it, and then I can try again to create my projects. And in this case, yes, it created that project, and I can do the same for the next one, etc. And so it's very easy to create new projects. And these will show up in my project list just as any other projects, and they have all the data that I have given them. So the other part here was the permission set conversion. That's not something I can show you, but that's more of a technical change. This is an important change. Permission sets historically were defined as XML, and now they can be defined as AL. For most, that doesn't matter what format they are, but going forward, Microsoft is pushing for this new format. As part of that conversion, which is now done for Progressive Advanced projects, there were some minor changes made in what was included in the permission sets to streamline them a bit more and align with the new guidelines from Microsoft, which might mean that there can be cases where after upgrade, certain permissions would be missing. So that's why we say before doing an upgrade, please do some testing in a sandbox just to avoid a situation where the users have lost permissions to do whatever they need to do. For most cases, there won't be a problem, but just for you to be aware. For Pryme Matters, we add 3 new things: the bulk completion, a feature on excess fee lines, and the resource hours factbox. I'll skip the excess fee because that is not used by many, and those who need to know it, they know about it already. The bulk completion is quite interesting, especially if you're working with a large number of matters. And the way you would do that is you would open up a bulk completion matters page. The purpose here being that if you're working with a lot of matters, and matters is our term for projects when you're working as a legal company or an accounting company, you might need to close these matters in bulk. And what we can do here is we can search for a subset of matters. We can set some filters. Here I'm saying I only want matters created before a certain date, and I get a list of matters. And all these matters are matters that technically they could be closed by now. There's nothing outstanding. There are no open time entries, there are no open invoices, and there's no residual work in progress, anything. So I could just close them off. And this is what we get as a column here, that they can be completed. By default, we only show projects that can be completed. And now I can simply select all of these and say complete selected, and it will complete all these projects, marking them as being completed. But I can also include projects that are close to being able to be completed. So I'll say include finished, and I'll allow to show projects that have open sales documents. Maybe they have a few open time entries. Maybe they're unpaid invoices. That's okay for me. I'll want to show those as well. So let's search. And we can see that we now have an additional project, project number 5, which shows in this list. It's marked as not being able to complete. And I would like to know why. So I'll look at the columns here, and I'll see out here that the reason for this is that we have an unpaid invoice. And so I'm not allowed to close this project because of an unpaid invoice. And maybe this is a reminder to me to remind the customer to get that invoice paid, or maybe they actually made the payment. I just haven't applied that to the invoice yet. So I should be soon able to close this project. So it's a kind of a special scenario when you have a lot of projects you want to close, but this will make it a lot easier for that scenario. The resource hours factbox is something we have in what we call invoice creation. Again, this is for Pryme Matters only. So in our invoice creation, if I open up this project, invoice creation is very similar to invoice suggestions with standard progressors. We have our resource hours factbox, and now we have a breakdown by the different resources. How many hours do they have on this? How much of this are we going to invoice? What is the amount? But we also have a total line totaling up everything. So you get that overview of what the total number is and the breakdown. For CIS and RCT, and this is actually most for CIS, we have a small change, which is the ability to get a proof of submission. When you have return periods for your CIS submissions, you now, if you submit them electronically to the HMRC, you will get a receipt back from the HMRC saying, we hereby certify that you actually have done a submission and you have this as proof of submission. And you can later bring that up if there's a dispute about you having submitted the information for that given period. We also have a new report that details your return statement, and it's simply a printed report for each of the vendors where you have entries or don't have entries. Actually, it will total that up on a report page. And that about brings us through the features we have, except that we still have intercompany, which is more of a technical change, but still it might be nice to know about. With our intercompany module, you will be managing subscriptions, and subscriptions have currently been managed through a pure list page. We have now introduced a subscription card to make it a bit more manageable, so I can create a new subscription here for receiving projects from another company. I'm getting them from another sandbox. And with this, we have everything in one place. There is a general information. There are some options depending on what kind of message we're getting. But of course, also the subscription tables below with all the details. And we have some processing details about when did we last run our subscription, are we any unprocessed messages, etc. Part of the reason for having this is that we're introducing new functionality to certain subscriptions, in this case for the project subscription, which is where we will get projects from another company within the same environment or a different environment. When we get these projects, we often want to apply an invoice setup template to them. And we cannot simply bring over the invoice setup from the originating company because there the invoice setup would be for invoicing the end customer. Here, this is for intercompany invoicing. And so we can predefine an invoice setup template that we want to have for those projects. And similarly, we can set a pricing template to define what prices we want to apply for those intercompany transactions between the companies. So that is detailed in here. And that is the new features we have in our different apps and in advanced projects. With that, I will switch gears and I will go into a bit of a deep dive into an area that I think many know about, but maybe don't use as much as they could because there are some really good capabilities in there. The topic is work types, which is visible in a lot of places, but we don't see that much use of it. And that is a shame because it can do some good things in certain scenarios. So let's start looking at what work types really are. If I search for work types, I will get a list of work types. I have some defined work types. And work types is something you can define to be part of either a budget or time tracked, where you you get a kind of a different dimension to it. So you might have work on a certain task, but you can do different kinds of work within that task. And so we can break that down. And these can be in different ways. It could be to have something where we say this is non-chargeable, so we create a special work type for it. It could also be to designate different kinds of work, like this is design work, this is support work, this is PM, project management work, because that might go across multiple tasks. And so you define your work types in here. And then we can use the work types to define cost and pricing. So we could set up a price list where we say that we have a special price for not a special project, but projects in general, where we say when a resource group or a resource, let's take a resource group in this case of consultants, are doing work and the work type is design work, then we have a special price. So then the price is 115. When we are doing support work for consultants, then it's another rate, and so on and so forth. So it's, instead of doing it task by task, we are doing pricing by the work type. And of course, we can combine that and say for a specific project and for a specific task and for a specific work type, we have a special price. But I think the real value is specifically in doing these generic work type pricings we set up. And then you can say, well, that also means that when I budget, I have to, of course, set those work types on the budget. And maybe you do if it makes a big difference to the budget. But more importantly, people will need to select the work types when they do their timesheets. And we don't want it to be more complicated for people to track their time. So what we can do, and this requires our Pryme Time app, is we can define how this is defaulted into a project. So if I open up a project here with the project card, we will see that there is a section here where we can define both what work types are allowed and what is the default work type. So we might say here on this project number 5 that the default work type is design work. And then it asked me if I said, does this apply to all tasks? And I might say yes. So this will apply to all tasks. But I could then go in and say specifically for some of the tasks in my project, it is another default work type. So maybe for the assembly part or meeting with a customer, it is a specific work type. And so we define the work type in here. And I can say for this task, it is not design. The work type is support or whatever it is. And then that will drive the pricing logic. We can see here that we can also define what work types are allowed. So we don't have people selecting work types that are outside the scope of this project. I can define new sets of work types. And so I could say we have a set of work types that I call maintenance, for instance. And this work type includes, this set includes certain work types. So maybe this includes support and includes PM. These are the allowed work types that I have in this set. And I have another set which are a general work type set, which includes everything. So basically, there's no filter. I could also just set a star here to indicate that it's everything. And so I can create these different sets of work types. And I can define that for this, the default will be support, and the user can select anything they want from the maintenance. So it's more of an extra feature to help them out. And this means that when I go in and I open up a timesheet, and I'll delete this line because that's not relevant here. But if I say again, for now, my demo 5 project, I select the task. If I select determining specifications, it defaults in the work type of design. And so the pricing will be for the work type of design pricing. And if I do something for, again, the same project, but we set it on, was it assembly? No, it was not assembly. We defined it differently. That was from the, the meeting with the customer. Then it's set as support. And I can go in and I can select another work type, but we will see I'm only allowed to select the two I have defined. I can go even further than this, and independent of if they're default or not, I can define on my project card if, actually not the project card, sorry, or the resource if they are required to enter work types. Because when you start working with work types, you might want to define that we always want to have a work type to avoid having situations where no work type is defined, and then it's unclear what pricing should be allowed. So I can go in here on my timesheet configuration, and I can say that I require work types on timesheets, just to avoid somebody forgetting to fill in the work types. So just to give you an idea, have a look at work types. Sometimes they can provide you with some alternative strategies for setting price or cost, or structuring your projects differently. It becomes better if you have Pryme time, because you can define the default work types and the allowed work types, but it's definitely not a requirement. Even if you don't have Pryme time, there is a lot of power in the work types. So have a look at that. It's kind of a hidden gem in the system, I would say. And so that is all I had to share at this point in time. I think, Laura, back to you.
Thank you. Have a good rest of the day and see you in a few weeks for our next release. Have a good day. Bye-bye.